The moment Gökberk, Yıldırım and Cemre Arda confirmed that their baby had arrived, a ripple of joy spread across social media like sunlight breaking through a cloudy morning. Followers who had long admired their quiet strength and undeniable chemistry felt as if they were being invited into the most intimate, radiant chapter of a love story they had watched carefully for years. For a couple so often praised for their grace on and off screen, this new milestone was celebrated as something deeply personal and beautifully universal at the same time. They were now, for the very first time, mom and dad. According to sources connected to Red Art, the birth took place in a private hospital in Istanbul, away from the usual noise, but filled with a calm expectation that only close family and a few trusted friends shared. The insiders say Cemre delivered a healthy little boy, and that both mother and child were doing remarkably well. The doctors, known for their discretion, kept the atmosphere serene, and the staff carefully shielded the couple from any outside interruptions. It was a night of hushed hallways and quiet congratulations, and of relief washing over the new parents in waves. A small circle kept the secret with devotion. For a few days, nothing leaked. No suspicious photos. No ambiguous captions. Just the silence of a family soaking in its first hours of new life. Then, as if the moment had arrived on its own timetable, they stepped out and shared a glimpse with the world. The post landed on Instagram without ceremony yet felt like a bell ringing far and wide. The image was simple, a tiny newborn hand gripping one of Gökberk's fingers. No elaborate staging, no shiny filters, just the kind of tenderness that needs no explanation. Along with the image came his words, straightforward yet piercing with feeling. He wrote that their son had turned their world into something fuller, that a heartbeat so small could feel so immense, and that the life he and Cemre had been building now had a new center. He called the baby his little prince and admitted he'd never known a love this steady and this sudden at once. The caption wasn't long, but it didn't need to be. You could sense the tremor in every sentence, the disbelief that joy could be so delicate and so complete at the same time. Minutes later, Cemre added her own message, and the tone shifted into something that sounded like the first line of a new chapter. She wrote about the patience of their journey, about late-night talks where they wondered what kind of parents they would be, and about the quiet promises they had whispered when no one else could hear them. She said the most precious part of their story had just begun, that they had been in love for years but had never understood until now how love can multiply without dividing, how it can make a home inside a hand so tiny it could disappear into a sleeve. She didn't need to say more, the photo said the rest. The comments exploded immediately. Friends from the Turkish entertainment world, colleagues who had shared sets, scripts, and long hours under hot lights, dropped heartwarming notes that blended professional respect with genuine affection. Actors and singers, directors and stylists, people who know exactly how rare privacy is in their industry, wrote that they were proud of the couple's strength and moved by their tenderness. Messages poured in like confetti, blessings for the child, wishes for health, hopes for endless joy. Within minutes, the threads filled with exclamation points and heartfelt prayers, a chorus of love sung in multiple voices but with the same melody. Fans, too, felt connected as if they'd been holding their breath alongside the couple for days. They praised the purity of the photograph, the quiet intimacy of it, the way it seemed to capture a universe in one miniature grip. Many remembered specific scenes that had made them fall in love with Gökberk and Cemre in the first place, pointing out how their trust on screen had always looked like the kind that could last off screen. They wrote that this was the happy ending, no, the happy beginning, they had hoped for, the place where fiction folds into reality and both feel equally luminous. Kiraz Sisagi reported that when the baby was first placed into their arms, both parents were overcome. It wasn't noisy. There were no dramatic speeches. It was a silence that said more than 1,000 words. A tear slipping down a cheek, a smile that didn't quite know where to stop, a look between them that said, yes, this is us, and yes, this is forever. Friends who visited at the hospital later described the moment as pure joy, the type of joy that doesn't announce itself but simply arrives and fills the space. People close to the couple told Red Art that a name had already been chosen, a Turkish name with melodic roots, the kind of name that holds a history while making room for a future. Still, the couple preferred to keep it under wraps for now, hoping to unveil it through a special family photo session in the coming days. The plan, said one source, was to capture a set of images that felt like them, unpretentious, glowing, full of warmth, before making the name public. The anticipation only grew with each passing hour, fueling speculation without ever feeling like a manufactured tease. Behind the scenes, the hospital room turned into a soft sanctuary. A swaddle here, a tiny hat there, a warm blanket folded carefully at the foot of the bed. There were moments where Cemre stared at her son in near disbelief, as if every breath he took was a kind of miracle. There were moments where Gökberk whispered to the baby, promise after promise, the kinds only a father can make. And there were stretches of quiet where their hands met over the bassinet, barely moving, barely breathing, simply listening to the small sounds a newborn makes that somehow echo like thunder in a parent's heart. When they finally decided to share, they agreed that less would be more. No posed glamour, no polished perfection, no spotlight brighter than the glow of two people looking at their child. The tiny hand photo became the halo of the announcement. The words, thoughtfully measured, were a bridge from their private memory to the public moment. And their audience, who knew them well enough to recognize sincerity, responded with gratitude rather than intrusion. The comments didn't pry, they blessed. They didn't demand, they thanked. By afternoon, news outlets began to frame the day in headlines, but the couple's friends called and texted instead. Some sent voice notes because there are times when typed words don't squeeze in enough emotion. Others sent flowers that filled the hospital room with gentle scents and colors, turning the sterile into something almost domestic. A few stopped by, careful not to overstay, stepping into the room as if into a sacred space, lowering their voices without thinking, and stepping out again with hearts expanded. Turkish sources added that the first time the baby looked up, those newborn eyes that seem both ancient and brand new, the entire room held its breath. The moment was described as fragile and infinite at once, a span of seconds that would live in their memories for years. Cemre cradled him with a certainty that surprised even her, a certainty she didn't know she possessed until it was asked of her. And Gökberk, usually calm and collected, had a laugh that shook with emotion, the kind you only hear when someone discovers a new layer of themselves. What the public saw was the tip of the story, a tiny hand, tender words, the suggestion of a small heartbeat filling a large home. What they didn't see, but could imagine, was the rhythm of their first night together, the diaper changes that felt like solving a riddle, the nervous way a swaddle was retied, the whispers exchanged when the whole world was dimmed and quiet. There were little victories, a latch that took, a yawn that looked like a smile, a nap that lasted long enough for both parents to look at each other and laugh. There were little lessons, how to adjust a blanket, how to hold the neck, how to breathe together when the baby stirred. In the middle of it all, Red Arts Insider noted, there was a decision made with love, to let the baby set the pace. The photos would come, the name would come, the long captions would come. But first, the tiny breaths. First, the firsts. They wrote down the time of birth on a note card and placed it on the nightstand like a treasure. They folded the first outfit like it was spun from sunlight. They took a few more photos for themselves, just them, just then, knowing that some pictures belonged to no feed and no filter. It didn't take long for fans to start calling the baby by a nickname. Dizzy, they said, because in love you can get wonderfully, beautifully dizzy. As if happiness spins the room into a soft blur and leaves only what matters sharply in focus. The nickname stuck, even as everyone waited for the official choice. It felt like a secret shared between thousands of people, a playful stand-in that didn't pretend to be anything more than a sweet placeholder. Dizzy was a mood, a warmth, a smile that rolls up from the heart and lives in the eyes. As the day folded into evening, the city glowed with its usual rhythm, and the hospital windows reflected the crescent of the night sky. Inside, the family rested, learning the choreography of their little trio. Cemre adjusted to the quiet power of motherhood, recognizing that strength is sometimes measured in softness. Gökberk mapped his days around his son's sounds, discovering that time itself takes a different shape when a baby enters it. They were not performing, they were simply being, and that simple being felt like the most meaningful thing they had ever done. Industry friends sent congratulations that pointed to what many had long admired. From on-screen romance to real-life partnership, they had always kept their center steady. Now, with a baby in the frame, the center expanded without losing its equilibrium. Comments reflected not just excitement but respect, the sense that this couple had managed to open their lives at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right way. It was a modern fairy tale, yes, but rooted in very real, very human tenderness. As the hours passed, anticipation grew for the promised family photo session. The flashes would come later, the lenses would capture smiles and sleepy eyes, and somewhere among those images the baby's official name would be unveiled. Until then, every news story and every repost gave fans permission to feel like part of a warm vigil, a watch kept with candles of well wishes and prayers. Nothing about the day felt crass or loud. It felt like a blessing unfolding at its own pace. And through it all, their messages, his simple vow, her poetic promise, hung in the air like a ribbon tying one life to three. There was no need to shout. There was only the quiet certainty of a new heartbeat joining their chorus, and the knowledge that the world outside could wait while they memorized the contours of a tiny face. In a culture where headlines can turn intimate moments into commodities, this one remained sacred. The public saw what they were meant to see, and it was enough. It was more than enough, because it was real. Fans kept commenting, but the comments shifted from excitement to a more peaceful gratitude. The noise softened into a hum of blessings, a lullaby written by thousands, sung for one child. By nightfall, a few more close friends slipped into the hospital to say hello and to say nothing at all, because sometimes presence is the only language that makes sense. They saw the same things the first visitors saw. A mother whose tenderness made the room feel like home, a father whose steady hands could calm any storm, and a child whose very existence stitched two people even closer together. The word everyone used was the same one whispered at the very beginning: joy. The story will keep unfolding, the first baths, first walks in the park, first holidays woven with new traditions, but this chapter will always be the one that feels like a lantern lighting the path. And in the coming days, when the family photo shoot takes place and the chosen name is revealed, it will be greeted not with surprise but with recognition, as if everyone had already known it in their hearts. A beautiful Turkish name, promised and prepared, waiting to be spoken out loud. Until then, the image of a tiny hand curling around a father's finger is enough. The assurance of a mother's promise is enough. The digital confetti from friends and fans is enough. And the knowledge that a love story celebrated by millions has found its truest measure in a small, sleeping smile is more than enough. From every corner of the community that has followed them, a final wish rises like a prayer across the night: may the little one bring endless happiness and abundance, may he be healthy and safe, may his days be gentle and brave. And from this channel to that family, the message is simple and sincere. Turkish series stars congratulates the new parents, and welcomes the tiniest new star in their sky. Little Dizzy, blessed beneath the silver curve of the crescent moon, held close by the two people who will love him for all their days.